In 1980s New England, crossing a bridge over the Connecticut River um, it basically meant resetting your watch.
Right.
But not because you were moving into a different time zone. It was because of data.
Yeah, exactly.
To a serial predator operating back then, crossing that river meant stepping out of one police database and just vanishing completely into the void.
It's terrifying to think about.
It really is.
Yeah.
So today we are doing a deep dive into the source material, a text called The Connecticut River Valley Killer, 47 Years of Silence.
Right, which is just a fascinating read.
Oh, absolutely. And we're looking at how a killer essentially weaponized state lines, jurisdictional bureaucracy, and honestly, seasonal snowfall to stay invisible for 47 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case that forces you to re-examine basically everything you think you know about safety.
Right.
We are so conditioned, to look at urban centers as the epicenter of violent crime.
Of course, like dark city alleys and stuff.
Exactly. We always equate natural beauty and isolation with peace. But when you look closely at the Connecticut River Valley in the late 1970s and 1980s, you see a masterclass in how a predator can exploit the very things we find most comforting.
I mean, if you're driving right now or just listening at home, you probably have this mental image of rural Vermont or New Hampshire.
Yeah, the classic postcard view.
Right. It's the definition of an American Idol. You have these massive, ancient pine trees, the continuous rushing sound of the river moving over smooth stones.
The endless dirt roads.
Exactly. It feels completely unshakably safe. But today, we are plunging into a deeply unsettling reality that shattered that exact peace.
It really did.
We are diving into the 47-year-old cold case of the Connecticut River Valley Killer.
Right.
Because between 1978 and 1987, 7 women were murdered. And miraculously, 1 survived.
Which is incredible in itself.
Oh, absolutely. But our mission here today isn't just to recite a list of terrible facts, or act as some kind of audio encyclopedia for true crime.
No, exactly. The goal here is to understand the actual mechanics of the invisibility.
Right. Like, how did he hide?
Yes. We need to dissect the structural realities, both geographical and governmental, that inadvertently wove a cloak around this predator.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it.
And crucially, we really need to understand the scientific and investigative shifts that are causing this case, after nearly half a century of cold silence, to suddenly heat up again in the 2020s.
It's wild. It completely flips your worldview upside down, honestly.
It really does.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the setting itself, because you simply cannot separate these crimes from where they happened.
No, you can't.
The landscape isn't just a backdrop, right? It is a central, active character in this mystery. I mean, the killer relied heavily on the high-trust culture of this specific region.
Oh, totally. The geography dictates every single aspect of this case.
Right.
We are talking about a very specific 50-mile corridor situated right on the border of Vermont and New Hampshire.
And the river is what divides them.
Exactly. The Connecticut River is the longest river in New England. Right. It's like 410 miles flowing all the way from the Canadian border down to Long Island Sound.
Wow.
But it's this specific upper valley stretch that forms the epicenter.
Yeah.
Towns like Claremont, Newport, Unity.
Cornish,
Yeah.
Springfield, Windsor, Heartland.
Right, all those.
And these are small communities, like a few thousand people each at most, right?
Like very small, very tight-knit.
They're separated by miles of dense state forests and sprawling farmland that has literally been in the same families for generations.
Right.
They are connected by these winding 2-lane roads cutting through heavy, heavy woodland. And the culture in the late 70s and 80s, I mean, it was one of incredibly high trust.
That is the defining psychological baseline of this era for sure.
Yeah.
People genuinely did not lock their doors.
It's so hard to imagine now.
Right. The dirt roads were considered basically safe extensions of their own backyards.
Wow.
I mean, a woman could park her car on a deserted road to go bird watching in the woods completely alone, and it wouldn't even register as a risky behavior to anyone in town.
Because why would it?
Exactly. The community felt this profound sense of ownership and security in those woods.
Which is exactly what makes the contrast so jarring.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how an environment like that functions for a predator. It's almost like the landscape itself acts as a massive camouflage net.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like it provides all this beautiful reassurance to the residents, but it offers perfect cover for someone who knows how to navigate it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that environmental familiarity is a massive tactical advantage for a predator.
Yeah, because they know the blind spots.
It is an almost insurmountable tactical advantage. I mean, He wasn't a stranger stumbling through the woods with a map, you know.
Right, he wasn't a tourist.
No, he moved with immense ease through these specific river crossings, these isolated dirt roads, these state forests. For a predator seeking isolated, vulnerable targets, knowing the terrain means knowing exactly where a scream won't be heard.
Ugh, that's chilling.
It is. It means knowing the exact traffic patterns of a rural highway on a Tuesday afternoon versus a Sunday morning.
Right.
And crucially, it means knowing exactly how to evaporate back into the scenery after the crime is committed.
He knew exactly where the coverage was thickest. So, having established this predator's playground, we look at who was pulled into those blind spots.
Right.
And when you look at the timeline, you really see how this pattern slowly, painfully emerged from the woods.
It begins in the fall of 1978, October 24th.
Okay.
The first victim is Cathy Millican.
Right.
She was 27 years old, from New London, New Hampshire. And going back to that high trust culture we just discussed, she was a bird watcher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She went out to the Esther Currier Wildlife Management Area to observe waterfowl.
Just a completely innocent, peaceful afternoon.
Entirely.
Mm.
But the next day, her body was found in a wooded area near the trailhead. She had been stabbed multiple times. And the case went cold almost immediately.
Just like that.
Just like that. There were no witnesses out there, no forensic evidence recovered, no real suspects. The forest just swallowed the details of the crime.
But then there's this eerie pause in the timeline.
Yeah, a long one.
A 3-year gap. It isn't until July of 1981 that 37-year-old Mary Elizabeth Critchley disappears.
Right.
And she isn't found until August in Unity, New Hampshire. And then after Mary, the timeline accelerates in a really alarming way.
It really ramps up.
Yeah, we hit 1984 and 1985, and suddenly the disappearances are just compounding.
The acceleration is a classic escalation pattern, honestly.
Yeah.
In May 1984, 17-year-old Bernice Courtemanche, who is the youngest of the confirmed victims, is last seen in Newport, New Hampshire.
Only 17?
Yeah. And then less than 2 months later, in July 1984, 26-year-old Ellen Fry disappears, also from Newport.
Wow, from the same town.
Exactly. And then the following summer, in July 1985, 27-year-old Eva Morse vanishes. Her body is eventually found in West Unity, New Hampshire.
See, if you're mapping this out in your head right now as a listener, you're probably screaming at your dashboard.
I'm sure.
Like, how do you have women disappearing from the exact same woods and not connect them?
Right.
It sounds like sheer incompetence. I mean, we have Cathy in 78, Mary in 81, then this cluster in 84 and 85. Why on earth weren't the alarm bells ringing across the entire valley after the second or third disappearance?
It's a completely valid frustration. And honestly, it's the most common reaction people have when looking back at cold cases like this.
Yeah, because hindsight's 20/20.
Exactly. But to understand why the dots weren't connected, we have to look at the grim reality of forensic taphonomy.
Forensic taphonomy.
Yeah, which is basically the study of how organisms decay over time,
Yeah.
and we have to look at the environment itself.
Okay.
You are looking at a forensic nightmare caused by a combination of time and nature.
Right.
Bernice Courtemanche and Ellen Freed were missing for over a year before they were discovered.
A whole year.
Yes. Eva Morse was missing for 9 months.
Right, because they were just left out in the harsh New England weather. But let's get into the mechanics of that. What does that actually mean for an investigator walking up to that scene a year later?
It means they have practically nothing to work with.
Really? Nothing.
Well, let's talk about the concept of forensic archaeology in this specific climate.
Okay.
When a body is left in the New England woods, it is subjected to massive, violent environmental shifts.
Because of the seasons.
Exactly. You have the freeze-thaw cycle.
Right.
When winter hits, the water inside the bone cells literally freezes and expands. This causes microfractures in the skeletal remains.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Then spring comes, the ground thaws, the soil shifts, and the bones are physically moved by the earth itself.
That's incredible.
The freezing and thawing effectively chews the evidence.
So it's not just decaying, like the environment is actively dismantling the scene.
Exactly. It's destroying it. And then you add in scavengers, coyotes, foxes, rodents. Yeah. And they will scatter remains over a massive radius. A crime scene that started as a 50-yard focused area. It can become a 5-mile debris field over the course of a year.
5 miles.
Easily. Then you have the acidic nature of pine needle soil.
Wait, pine needles are acidic?
Very. And that acidity actively degrades calcium. It literally eats away at the bones.
Wow.
And perhaps most importantly for this specific killer, you have the precipitation.
Rain and snow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rain and snowmelt systematically dilute and wash away any transfer evidence, any trace fibers, any blood from the killer, any footprints. It's all erased.
It's like the woods are putting the scene through a washing machine and then a wood chipper.
That's a highly accurate way to look at it, unfortunately. I mean, Bernice's remains were so degraded by the elements that she had to be identified by dental records.
That's so sad.
It is. So without a pristine crime scene to process immediately, early investigators in 78 and 81 simply didn't have the data points to confidently say, this is the work of one man.
Right, they couldn't see the pattern.
Exactly. They couldn't establish an MO, a signature, or even a reliable cause of death across the board. They just didn't have the bodies.
Man, the dread of knowing someone is missing but having absolutely no idea what happened to them,
It's terrible.
that uncertainty is a special kind of psychological torture for a town. Like, people knew women were vanishing. The culture of high trust we talked about was fracturing.
It was falling apart.
Yeah, but because the bodies were hidden for so long, the full, horrifying picture of a serial killer operating in their backyards just wasn't visible yet.
The landscape completely shielded him.
Yeah.
But then, the seasons change and the pattern becomes absolutely undeniable.
Right. Spring of 1986.
Yes. We hit a pivotal 10-day period in April.
Okay.
The winter snow melts, the ground softens, and people start moving through the woods again. Hikers, hunters, kids just exploring.
Sure, everybody's outside.
And within a week and a half, the skeletal remains of both Bernice Courtemanche and Eva Morse are discovered.
Wow. Back to back.
Exactly. This is the moment the veil drops. Investigators look at two recoveries in the exact same geographical area, discovered right next to each other in time, with very similar victim profiles.
So they can't ignore it anymore.
Right. They can no longer deny the connection.
Mm.
The serial killer theory is finally crystallized.
And almost immediately after they realize they have a serial killer who hunts in the woods and hides bodies for months, the killer does something that shatters the entire established pattern.
Yeah, a complete deviation.
Right. This brings us to Lynda Moore.
Okay.
It's April 15th, 1986. She's 36 years old, living in Westminster, Vermont.
Right.
And this is the anomaly. Because Lynda wasn't taken from a dirt road. She wasn't hidden in the forest for a year.
No, she wasn't.
She was murdered in her own home in broad daylight. She was stabbed over 20 times, and she was found the exact same day.
It is a radical psychological shift for the killer.
So what does this all mean? I mean, from an investigative standpoint, it's like a sudden, loud alarm bell going off in a totally silent house.
That's exactly what it was.
It breaks all the previously established rules of this killer. Indoors versus outdoors, found immediately versus hidden.
Yes. And in criminology, we look at the difference between organized and disorganized offenders.
Right, I've heard those terms.
For years, this killer operated as a highly organized predator.
Right, he had a system.
Exactly. He selected isolated targets, controlled the environment, and successfully hid the bodies to delay discovery and destroy evidence.
That requires a lot of discipline.
It requires immense planning, patience, and control.
So when he suddenly pivots to a home invasion, what is the actual mechanism behind that?
Well, there are a few theories.
I mean, I'm trying to map out why he would abandon a highly successful, perfectly functioning strategy. To go into someone's home where a husband or a neighbor could literally walk in at any second suggests a complete loss of that control.
You're right. It is a massive escalation of risk, which usually indicates one of two things.
Okay, what are they?
Either the compulsion to kill became so overwhelming that he can no longer wait for the perfect isolated opportunity in the woods, meaning his internal pressure cooker basically blew.
Okay, so he just couldn't help himself.
Right. Or the second option, something in his personal life triggered a disorganized, frenzied state.
How what?
We see this in serial offenders a lot. When they lose a job, go through a nasty divorce, or face some major stressor, their meticulous planning degrades into impulsive violence.
Oh, wow, so it spills over into the crimes.
Exactly. But from a purely investigative standpoint, this loss of control was the biggest break they could have asked for.
Because Lynda Moore was found immediately.
Yes. She was inside a home, completely shielded from the weather. The timeline wasn't measured in years anymore. It was measured in hours.
So the evidence was fresh.
Precisely. The home environment preserved everything the woods used to destroy. And because it was a brazen daytime attack, it produced something incredibly tangible.
Right.
A witness actually saw a man entering Lynda Moore's home shortly before the murder.
After years of chasing a ghost in the woods, they finally have a face.
They do. They generate a police sketch from the witness description. A white male, with short dark hair and thick-rimmed glasses.
Oh.
It is a massive turning point in the case.
Which naturally brings up the next massive point of frustration.
Oh, absolutely.
I know I was pulling my hair out reading this part of the source material, and if you're listening, you probably are too.
It's maddening.
If they have a sketch in 1986 and they have the bodies of Bernice and Eva turning up and the pattern is finally established, they know he's out there.
Right.
And then Barbara Agnew, 38 years old, disappears in January 1987.
Just months later.
Yeah, and she's found 2.5 months later in Hartland, Vermont. So the killing is continuing. Why wasn't he caught?
What's fascinating here is how the killer exploited the fundamental structure of American law enforcement.
The invisible borders on the map.
Yes. We have to dive into the bureaucratic blind spot. We have to look at the structural mechanics of 1980s law enforcement.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's look at the map again. The 50-mile killing corridor straddles 2 states, Vermont and New Hampshire.
Right.
And the Connecticut River is the physical border.
Yeah.
But within those 2 states, you are dealing with multiple different county sheriff's departments.
And local police too, right?
Exactly. Local town police, the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, and the Vermont State Police.
I want to use an analogy here because just saying they didn't communicate well really doesn't capture the severity of the structural failure.
No, it doesn't.
It's like looking at a split brain patient.
Okay, I like this.
In neuroscience, if the corpus callosum, which is the bundle of nerves connecting the left and right hemispheres of the brain, is severed, the 2 sides literally cannot communicate.
Right.
The left eye might see an object, but the speech center in the right brain can't say what it is. The hands cannot coordinate.
Wow.
That's what this jurisdictional map looks like. New Hampshire is the left hemisphere, Vermont is the right. They are looking at the exact same monster, but the data sharing mandate, the corpus callosum, just does not exist.
That is a perfect structural analogy.
Thank you.
In criminology, this is actually called linkage blindness.
Linkage blindness. Interesting.
Yeah. It is the inability of law enforcement agencies to connect geographically dispersed crimes committed by the same offender.
Because they just aren't talking to each other.
Right. And you have to remember, the technological reality of the mid-1980s. There is no centralized, computerized database instantly flagging similarities across state lines.
They aren't typing stabbing wooded area into a search bar and getting instant hits from a county 20 miles away.
Not at all. Information literally lived in physical manila folders inside metal filing cabinets.
Right. Just paper.
Exactly. A detective in a Vermont county might have a hunch, but the matching piece of circumstantial evidence is sitting in a teletype log in a New Hampshire sheriff's office.
Wow.
Because there was no legal requirement or unified command structure forcing them to pool every single piece of data into one room, the killer just slipped through the cracks.
That is so frustrating.
It is. The geographic spread of the bodies wasn't just a physical hurdle of having to search vast areas of woods.
It was a jurisdictional firewall.
Exactly. A firewall.
I'm trying to map out why he was so successful beyond just the state lines, though.
Okay.
If he's using a knife instead of a gun, my first thought is that it's just quieter, right? It doesn't alert anyone in the woods.
It's true.
But from a forensic standpoint in the 1980s, is a knife actually a better tool for leaving no trace?
Absolutely. Let's look at the mechanics of the weaponry.
Okay.
If a killer uses a firearm, they are leaving behind a massive amount of physical evidence, even if they take the actual gun with them.
Because of the ballistics.
Right. A firearm ejects brass casings. When the firing pin strikes the primer, it leaves a microscopic, unique impression.
Oh, like a signature.
Exactly. As the bullet travels down the barrel, the rifling leaves unique striations on the metal. It acts like a metallic fingerprint.
Right, right.
If police find the bullet in a tree or in a victim, they can match it to a specific gun. Plus, gunshot residue is left on the scene and on the shooter.
It's messy. But a knife doesn't have a firing pin.
Exactly. A knife relies entirely on the transfer of biological trace evidence.
Like what?
Blood, sweat, skin cells, clothing fibers. It requires intimate, violent, close quarters contact.
Which you'd think would be worse for the killer.
You would think so. But as we already established, if you commit that crime in an outdoor New England environment, and the body sits in the rain and snow for a year.
Oh, right. It all washes away.
Yes. All of that biological transfer evidence is instantly diluted, washed away, or degraded.
Wow.
In an era before advanced touch DNA recovery, leaving no ballistic trace and relying on weather-degraded biological trace was essentially the perfect storm for a killer.
So we literally have this perfect storm of failure.
Unfortunately, yes.
We have the weather chewing up the evidence, the split-brain jurisdictions failing to connect the dots, and a weapon that leaves no metallic fingerprint.
It was the worst-case scenario.
And after Barbara Agnew's murder in January 1987, the valley just goes quiet again.
Yes, for a long time.
For 18 months, there's silence. The public might have thought it was over. Or maybe he moved away,
People were definitely hoping it was over.
But then the killer returns. And this brings us to what is undoubtedly the most gripping, heart-stopping part of this entire source material.
The survivor.
We need to talk about the survivor.
It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
It happens on August 6th, 1988. Jane Boroski.
Jane is 22 years old. She is 7 months pregnant.
Right.
She is driving home from the Cheshire County Fair, and she pulls off the road to stop for a soda at a closed gas station in Swansea, New Hampshire.
Just a completely normal night.
Exactly. It's late, but it's just a quick stop. I want you to really think about the mechanics of that moment if you're listening.
Yeah.
Buying a soda from a vending machine on a warm August night after a fair. It is the most mundane, normal thing in the world. Your guard is completely down.
And that profound normality is what makes the sudden intrusion of violence so shocking. The sequence of events is incredibly fast. Jane pulls into the empty lot and gets out of her car.
Okay.
Another vehicle pulls up alongside hers. A man gets out, approaches her, and speaks to her.
What does he say?
He asks if the payphone is working.
Just casual.
Completely casual.
Huh.
And then the normality vanishes. He produces a knife and attacks her.
He stabs her 27 times.
Yes.
She is 7 months pregnant, and she is being subjected to an absolute frenzy of violence. He severs her jugular vein. He stabs her in the abdomen.
It's horrific.
But Jane Boroski does not surrender. She fights back aggressively. She kicks, she struggles, she refuses to go down.
She was fighting for 2 lives.
Exactly. And then suddenly, in the middle of this horrific, frenzied attack, he just stops.
Right.
He walks back to his car, and he drives away, leaving her there.
And incredibly, miraculously, Jane gets back into her car, drives herself to a friend's house, and both she and her baby survive.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sheer willpower required to survive that is staggering.
Absolutely.
But from an investigative standpoint, Jane's survival changed the entire landscape of the case.
Yes, it did.
Because when police interviewed Jane in the hospital, she gave a description of her attacker.
She described a white male, 30 to 35 years old, with brown hair, wearing eyeglasses.
Which matches the sketch.
It matches the Lynda Moore sketch perfectly, the one generated from the anomaly back in 1986.
Wow.
Now, investigators have a living, breathing eyewitness who actually corroborated the single solitary piece of physical description they possessed.
That's massive.
But analytically, we have to ask a deeply complex psychological question. Why did he stop?
Right. Why didn't he finish it?
Why did a man who successfully methodically murdered 7 women suddenly walk away from an 8th, leaving her alive to identify him?
What flips that switch in a killer's brain? I mean, was he spooked?
Well, there's several variables we have to explore here.
Okay.
First, the physical resistance. Jane fought back fiercely.
Right. She didn't just take it.
For a predator who relies on control and domination, unexpected violent resistance can shatter the psychological fantasy of the assault.
It ruins his script.
Exactly. It breaks their script entirely.
Okay, what else?
Second, auditory interruption.
Like a noise.
Yeah. Did he hear a car coming down the highway? Did the compressor on the soda machine kick on and startle him?
Oh, that makes sense.
Did a dog bark in the distance? These offenders are operating in a state of intense hyperarousal. The slightest external noise can trigger a massive flight response.
Or maybe he just thought he had finished the job.
That is the third and perhaps most terrifying possibility.
Because of the 27 stab wounds.
Yes, he inflicted 27 wounds. In the dark, covered in blood, his internal psychological quota for violence may have been met.
So he just assumed she wouldn't make it.
He simply assumed she would expire in the parking lot. We may never know the exact mechanism of his retreat.
Wow.
But we must emphasize the sheer rarity of this in the true crime record.
Really? It doesn't happen often.
Almost never. It is almost unheard of for a survivor to look a highly successful serial killer in the face, fight him off, and live to tell the tale.
And Jane didn't just survive that night. What really stands out to me is how she weaponized her own survival.
Oh, she's amazing.
She has spent the next 38 years advocating for the victims. She gave a 3.5-hour testimony on the Murder She Told podcast in 2022.
Which everyone should listen to, honestly.
Absolutely. She has relentlessly repeated her story, reliving that trauma over and over again to ensure that no one forgets Cathy, Mary, Bernice, Ellen, Eva, Lynda, and Barbara. She essentially became their voice.
Her resilience is just a masterclass in human strength.
But this brings us to the most painful friction point of this entire deep dive.
Yeah, the aftermath.
You have a perfect description. You have a survivor who can point at a lineup. As a listener, you expect this to be the end of the story.
Right, the tidy ending.
You expect the next sentence to be about the dramatic arrest, the trial, and the life sentence.
But it didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
And this leads us directly into why this case remains an open wound today. We have to talk about the ghost suspect.
Right. Michael Nicholaou.
Okay, let's talk about Michael.
He is the publicly named prime suspect in this case.
Let's look at why he fits, because the details are crazy.
They really are.
He was a Greek immigrant who lived in the Connecticut River Valley during the exact period of the murders.
Sure.
He had a history of severe domestic violence.
Check.
He looked remarkably like the sketch. And his timeline of living in the area matches the acceleration of the murders perfectly.
It's all there on paper.
So if you're listening to this, the obvious question is, why on earth wasn't he arrested in 1988?
This raises an important question, and it comes back to the difference between suspicion and the legal burden of proof.
Right. Knowing it and proving it are two different things.
Exactly. To secure an arrest warrant and a conviction, prosecutors need more than geography and a resemblance to a sketch.
They need hard evidence.
They need physical evidence tying the suspect to the specific murder scenes. And as we discussed at length, the forensic taphonomy, the weather, the scavengers, the passage of time, along with the jurisdictional delays, meant that physical evidence was practically non-existent.
They didn't have the murder weapon. They didn't have his fingerprints on the bodies.
Exactly. They have a strong circumstantial case, but that's it.
Man.
And before investigators could build a bulletproof forensic case against him, Nicholaou just left the area.
He ran.
He moved his family around the country. He was later actually implicated in the disappearance of his own wife.
Wow.
And he eventually fled the country entirely, moving to Greece.
And he died there in 2009.
Yes.
By suicide, right as police were closing in on him for the murder of his wife and stepdaughter.
Right.
So he died before any charges could ever be filed for the Connecticut River Valley murders.
He did.
And it's really important to note that the New Hampshire Attorney General's office has never officially named him as the definitive killer. He remains the prime suspect, but not a convicted murderer.
Which leaves the case in a bizarre state of legal purgatory.
Which forces me to ask a really difficult question about the nature of closure.
Go for it.
If the prime suspect is dead, and there can never be a trial where he faces a jury, where families can read victim impact statements, where a judge hands down a sentence, what does justice actually look like now?
That is the philosophical core of modern cold case investigation.
Yeah.
It requires us to distinguish between two different types of resolution.
Okay, what are they?
There is legal accountability, which, as you noted, died with Nicholaou in Greece.
Yeah.
There will be no trial.
Right.
But there's also forensic accountability.
Forensic accountability.
Yes, and that is what law enforcement is pursuing right now.
Because the investigation didn't just die in 2009.
No, not at all.
We have massive, highly significant recent developments from the source text.
Yes, we do. In May of 2024, law enforcement executed a search warrant on a home in Newport, New Hampshire. Exactly.
Yeah.
A person who was previously questioned decades ago was interviewed again, and potential evidence was removed from the property.
And it didn't stop there.
No.
In October 2025, investigators returned to the exact spot where Cathy Millican, the very first victim from 1978, was killed.
Right, on the 47th anniversary.
They were out there in the woods running metal detectors, searching the soil.
Yeah.
But why go back to a 47-year-old outdoor crime scene? What could possibly be left after all those freeze-thaw cycles?
They are going back because the science of forensic archaeology and DNA recovery has fundamentally changed.
Really? How much has it changed?
Radically. In the 1980s, investigators needed a drop of blood or a visible hair with a root just to get a basic blood type.
Right.
Not even a DNA profile, just a blood type.
Wow.
Today, they're utilizing advanced technologies like MVAC systems.
What's an MVAC?
It's a system that can basically vacuum microscopic single-cell touch DNA from porous surfaces.
Like dirt or clothing.
Exactly. They're also using single nucleotide polymorphism, or SMP testing.
Okay, and what does that do?
It can build a full genetic profile from heavily degraded, environmentally damaged bone fragments.
That is mind-blowing.
It is. They are searching for the microscopic link that definitively, scientifically, places the suspect with the victims.
So they aren't just acting out of nostalgia or just going through the motions. They are actively hunting for forensic truth.
Exactly. These recent searches prove that this investigation is aggressively active.
It's not just a dusty file sitting in a basement in Concord.
No, they are seeking historical truth. And for the families of the victims, and for Jane Boroski, proving definitively who did this, naming the monster, is a profoundly meaningful form of justice in itself.
The truth still matters, even 47 years later.
It always matters.
And as we look back over this entire investigation, the tragic toll of this case really weighs heavily. We are talking about 7 women who were deeply loved.
Yes.
Cathy Millican, Mary Elizabeth Critchley, Bernice Courtemanche, Ellen Freed, Eva Morse, Lynda Moore, and Barbara Agnew.
7 lives cut short.
7 women who just went about their lives in a place they trusted and who never came back. And we have Jane Boroski, who survived the unimaginable and ensured they were never forgotten.
It's really powerful.
This killer, whoever he definitively was, took the incredible beauty of the Connecticut River Valley, the safety of those small towns, and he weaponized it.
He really did. It serves as a stark reminder of how fragile our sense of security can truly be.
Yeah.
But, it is also a testament to vital, unyielding persistence.
Yep.
You see it in Jane, demanding answers for nearly 4 decades.
Refusing to be quiet.
Exactly. And you see it in those cold case investigators, still out there in the mud and the cold in 2025, refusing to let the wilderness keep its secrets.
It really leaves you with a haunting thought to ponder, long after we finish speaking today.
It does.
We've talked so much about the mechanisms of this case, the jurisdictions, the forensics, but think about this specific takeaway. When a brutal crime happens in the deep woods and the freeze-thaw cycle shatters the bones and the rain washes away the footprints and the acidic soil dissolves the evidence, does the landscape itself become an unwitting accomplice to the crime?
Wow.
I mean, the woods actively performed the work of a cleaner.
They really did.
But as modern science finally learns to outsmart the passage of time with microscopic DNA recovery, are we finally forcing that silent, beautiful wilderness to give up its darkest secrets?
I think we are.
So the next time you are standing in a perfectly quiet, isolated forest and you hear nothing but the wind and the trees, ask yourself what that silence might really be hiding.